Welcome back to the channel as I begin a series of videos from the beautiful Indian Ocean island nation, Sri Lanka. I'm in Negombo, an old and colorful city on the western coast, about an hour north of Colombo, the capital. Negombo is much closer to Colombo's international airport than Colombo itself. So if you plan to visit Sri Lanka and prefer to start in a smaller, less crowded place than the bustling capital, Negombo is a good alternative. Here, as in the rest of Sri Lanka, the overwhelming majority of people are Sinhalese and speak Sinhala, an Indo-Aryan language. Sri Lankans are also overwhelmingly Buddhist, the religion of about 70% of the people, and a single-digit percentage of Christians. But notice I said Sri Lanka. Here in Negombo, more than 65% of the 140,000 or so residents identify as Christians, the vast majority being Roman Catholic. One of the city's nicknames is Little Rome because of the ornate churches you find here. If that seems unusual, there's a reason for it. This centuries-old fishing center was influenced by 3 European nations in ways that other parts of Sri Lanka weren't.
Negombo's introduction to Catholicism goes back to the early 1500s, when the Portuguese took control of the city while Sinhalese kingdoms continued to rule elsewhere on the island.
The Portuguese were driven out in the 1650s, replaced by the Dutch, who ruled into the 1790s when the British took over and stayed until the new country of Ceylon became independent in 1948. So what you have here, more so than in many other parts of this island nation, is a blend of European influences, cultural, architectural, religious, that are distinct to Negombo. If you come to Negombo, you're almost certain to see a map with the words Dutch Fort on it. Therefore, it would be logical for you to expect it to be a tourist attraction. I'm at the entry of the Dutch Fort, and there's an official, if badly worn, sign from a government agency admonishing those who enter that this is an archaeological site that's not to be disturbed. Well, no spoiler alert, but I stepped inside a few minutes ago. Now I want to show you in and see what you think. If you're thinking, as I first did, that the people you see lined up here are there to buy tickets, you would be mistaken. They're signing up as visitors to a prison. While this historic fort, or what's left of it, may be an archaeological site, that's what it mainly is, a prison. The British built it in the 1890s, and it's still in use. As for this fort, it was originally built by the Portuguese in the 1600s as Negombo Fort, the lesser of several Portuguese installations scattered along the colony's shoreline to help protect Colombo. The Dutch conquered it fairly easily, and it wasn't considered much stronger even after they supposedly rebuilt it. There used to be a moat surrounding this place, but it's long since been filled in. In front of the fort, there are several old colonial-looking buildings, abandoned and fenced off, that were for years used by the court system here as offices. It's still a kick to come here and see the combination of people that visit. That is, relatives of men behind bars and discombobulated tourists with a "what is this" look on their faces. One legacy left behind by the Dutch was a network of canals that fanned inland from the coast near Negombo, built in the 1700s. including one that stretched for more than 100 miles. When the Dutch colonized the region from the Portuguese, they turned to canal building for another reason. They wanted to grow rice in the nearby marshes and saw canals as a way to draw salt water from the rice fields. But as they learned the hard way, the canals only made the salt problem worse. It would be tempting to assume that this canal, the Hamilton Canal, which is sometimes called the Dutch Canal, was part of them. But that would not be accurate. This 9-mile canal through the heart of Negombo was built by the British between 1802 and 1804. The British built it a few miles west of and connected to the Dutch Canal in a bid to drain salt water from the marshlands themselves. This canal, too, failed in its main purpose, although it did provide the means to transfer local commercial products. But that role disappeared in the 1920s with the completion of a railroad. The canal is a quaint, if somewhat polluted reminder of a bygone era. Ironically, it ended up being ideal as a residential street for fishermen who could get in and out of here in the heart of Negombo to their real workplace, which is in the lagoon and out at sea. My name is Ron. It's Ron. What's your name? What? Sudes. Nice to meet you, Sudes.
Among the families living along this canal, the men are almost all fishermen. There are few cars or tuk-tuks, but nearly everyone has a boat.
It is Sunday, and that means it's big market day. There's a huge complex in the middle of the downtown that is largely vacant for the rest of the week, but on this day, people come from near and far. Not surprisingly for Negombo, one of these pavilions is devoted exclusively to the sea. Lots of fish, all kinds of fish. This market is deceiving because when you walk into it from the middle of downtown, just off one of the two main streets, it appears to be sort of localized, but once you get inside, it begins to snake next to the beach. And I'm going to walk down a ways and see how far this goes. A reflection of what's growing in this region near Negombo, always rich agriculturally. Many of these people, I'm sure, have come in from the countryside to sell their wares personally. Just stepped through a little gap in the market walkway, and this is what's here. A seawall, a jetty, and then there's the market. I've walked about a half mile down this market corridor with the sound of the ocean crashing in the background up against the rocks here. Very pleasant Sunday morning to be strolling in Negombo at the seaside market. Before the British, the Dutch, or the Portuguese, Negombo was and remains a fishing town. And while its colonial masters made it an important center for the spice trade, fishing has always been preeminent here. There are not one but two open-air fish markets in Negombo. One near the center of town, which is primarily for small-scale, small boat fishermen who bring in their catch on the beach in a more traditional style. And the one where I am now, which is more oriented toward large boat commercial fishing. Fishermen come in off these boats after having been out at sea for up to a month at a time. I'm on a side of a street where the daily catch arrives, and that is fish brought in, they're put on the market right here on the spot. And just across the street is where the second day catch is displayed. The fish here in the just arrived section, relatively expensive. Many buyers buy from the second day catch. Of course, the finest restaurants are shopping only on this side.
What has distinguished Negombo as a major fishing center is its famous lagoon, 10 kilometers long, 4 kilometers wide, that's a natural ocean barrier. The market where I've come is on an island near the north end of the lagoon. To experience the fishing scene in its raw essence, I'm headed to the traditional fish market on the beach near the center of town. Beneath the shrine is St. Anthony of Padua, the patron saint of fishermen. The scene here is similar to the way it's been for generations.
This early in the process, from catch to retail sale, marketing plays such a role for these fish. Just looking at these tuna, they're probably some of the same tuna that came in on the boat this morning, whose colleagues I saw down at the other market being offloaded off the large boats. And yet, they look better here because they've been watered down and everything looks attractive.
In a world where the phrase fresh seafood has largely lost its meaning, markets like this one are the real deal. Here, the catch literally begins 100 meters away.
The fishing starts not just in the boats, but as you can see, those guys behind me are wading into the ocean with nets and they're fishing. Just them in the sea.
Along with, I should add, a supporting cast of men and women. It's smelly, back-breaking work, done rain or shine, whenever the boats come in. And never without a rapt audience.
In the dried fish in the Chenchia sun, you have the coconut match. This side the coconut match. Yeah, the Chenchia sun dried fish. Yeah.
So, what is the name of this fish?
The kingfish.
The kingfish.
Yes, the kingfish.
There's a lot of it here, so it must be popular.
Yeah.
Negombo's fishermen work hard and work well. In a town that lives off the sea, the clientele expects no less. Next from Sri Lanka, it's inland by rail to the celebrated city of Kandy.